Servus Männer, it's Red Pill Germany again. In my video from yesterday, I told you how certain European leaders are disrespecting their people. The French president, Emmanuel Macron, went as far as saying that they are not citizens anymore, the people who don't follow his orders, and he wants to make life as unpleasant for them as possible using very vulgar and vile language. Also, I told you that the government of Germany, the newly elected government under Olaf Scholz, they are completely disregarding recent scientific studies and medical results. And they are just marching on forward on their path, pushing their laws, which will favor, of course, the pharmaceutical industry, giving them profits without risk guaranteed by the German taxpayer. But Europeans are not okay with that, at least not all of them, and they're showing this indignation and this justified anger on the streets where they peacefully protested, also this weekend once again. I have heard about protests not only in Germany, but also in Austria. In Vienna was a really big one, and then also in Italy and in France. Now in today's video, I want to say a couple of words about these countries, so that you understand better why this weekend people took to the streets. So I already covered France, but I want to add that they have decided now to introduce an immunization passport so that people need to show this kind of paperwork or this ID or whatever it will be if they want to enter a shop. Or also I think it should affect public transport, which is a big thing, a big deal for many people, especially in metropolitan areas. And then I also want to say that very soon, I think in 3 months or something, in France there will be a presidential election, and that means that Mr. Macron is very nervous, and maybe that is why his language wasn't really as clean as it could have been when he talked about his good citizens. Maybe he's already afraid of the elections, who knows. Next, Germany. In Germany, the main event is really on Monday, but a lot of people, I think, can't make it on Monday, so also on the weekends, we have protests on the streets, or should I say people are going for a walk, of course, because legitimate peaceful protest is no longer allowed in Germany, so people have to go for a walk instead. And here what infuriated people, understandably so, this time especially, is that they want to push this pharmaceutical product on extremely young children now, from the age of 5. Next up, I want to talk about Italy. There they have a mandatory jab now for people from 50 years old. So that is a different approach than we have in Germany. In Germany, it is only for certain professional groups, like in the health sector, health workers, doctors, nurses, and so on. In Italy, they said when you are 50 or above, then you need to get the jab. So this, together with many other measures, there is what people are protesting against in Italy. Last up, I want to talk about Austria, because in Austria there was a gigantic demonstration on the weekend, yesterday, on Saturday. I mean, the one in France was also huge, but remember, France is a much larger country also. For Austria, it is pretty good. The mainstream and state media in Austria said that around 40,000 people took to the streets in Vienna, and we all know, as I explained in previous videos, that this is a lie. They give out numbers that are way too low, and they do this on purpose so that they can frame them as a tiny, dangerous minority, and they don't have to take them serious. So if the mainstream media tell you it is 40,000 people, then it is more realistically around 100,000 people. That is what you have to bear in mind. And they also don't give out the aerial footage once again. When the regime in Austria and the globalists had organized some kind of a pro-government demonstration, officers of the state actually used helicopters and drones in order to produce propaganda material for the globalist regime there. So that means they were using taxpayer money, state resources, for their propagandistic purposes. But when the people of Austria take to the streets in order to protest against the government, then these images from above are treated like a state secret. They don't give them out, and they deliberately publish this ridiculously low number of 40,000 protesters. Now I want to talk a little bit about a special thing that happened there. It turns out that the authorities have divided this protest. They cut off the leading part of it and they let the trailing part of it pass. And this first part of the protesters, they locked into something like a blockaded area. We call it Kessel in Germany, which means pot or cauldron or something like that. And that just means the officers were surrounding those people and they did not let anyone in, nor did they let anyone go out for whatever reason. And that includes if you have to go to the bathroom or if you have to leave because you're late for an appointment that you had afterwards. So they literally were locking them in. They were surrounding them. And then after locking them in, agents of the state started provoking the people and attacking them physically using the usual tools, spray and gas and so on. But the people inside this surrounded area, they kept calm and disciplined because they knew, I think, that the hope of the state was that there would be some kind of escalation, that the people that were surrounded would start fighting back against the aggression from the side of the state, and that would have given the regime in Austria exactly what they wanted. Pictures and video footage of aggressive protesters that they can demonize and vilify in their propaganda material later in the mainstream media. But this was yesterday a complete success for the protesters and a complete loss for the globalists in Vienna, in Austria. They did not get the desired footage of unhinged, crazy madmen on the street. The people remained disciplined and peaceful, and later they just opened up this surrounded area again and the protesters could join the others and they completely dominated the streets of Vienna afterwards. And now afterwards we actually know that this was in fact a planned trap. We can see that 20 minutes before the protesters arrived on that spot, the officers were already preparing to set this trap. And also just at the place where this trap was about to close later, a camera team of the public broadcasting in Austria had been positioned beforehand already on a balcony that is towering over this scene at a prominent, perfect spot for producing this propaganda footage that they wanted to have. So just think about what could have happened. What kind of propagandistic catastrophe could have ensued there in Vienna had the protesters not been that experienced in dealing with this kind of oppression and with these underhanded, slimy tactics from the side of the regime. Had they allowed themselves to be provoked by the regime forces, this could have turned out very ugly, and that could have provided the regime with valuable propaganda footage. Now, despite the fact that even elderly citizens got injured as the regime forces attacked these surrounded individuals there, they kept calm and they remained disciplined. Hats off to the protesters in Vienna. Oh, I think that is the wrong picture here. Nah, that is not Martin from Austria. That is Rudi from Germany, the late Rudi. May he rest in peace. But maybe he serves even today as a model for how peaceful protest works and how it can be very, very effective. Let me know what is going on in your country. As always, post it in the comments down below. Enjoy the rest of your day. Servus, Kameraden.